Although the pastor's inaugural benediction was beautiful and powerful, before he even opened his lips, I felt bad for him. Having to follow Amanda Gorman, our nation's first youth poet laureate, as she read her poem, The Hill We Climb. All week I had been pondering the gospel for today, where Jesus speaks of becoming fishers of each other. And I could not help but feel that this young poet was casting a net of beautiful words over our country, capturing our imagination as she reeled us in towards hope. For me, that hope was grounded not only in the poetry, but within the energy of a young 22-year-old black woman who had already experienced profound pain, as well as struggled with a speech impediment, which she overcame by reciting the lyrics of Hamilton. It was stunningly beautiful to step back and take in the landscape of that moment. The chorus of hope we experienced included a young, eloquent woman and a much, much, much older president, both of them having overcome speech impediments as they spoke forth hope to a country that has become tongue-tied in expressing its vision. What we heard and felt was a renewed sense that hope is the catalyst for moving forward. My question today is, do you have it? Hope? And where do you find that hope today? I think in at least two places, in valleys and vision. First, Jesus meets us in the valleys. Jesus must have been filled with hope because his ministry began not when things were looking up, but immediately after John the Baptist was arrested, a twisted attempt by Herod to suppress a voice of hope and transformation arising in the wilderness. Undeterred, Jesus immediately starts organizing the people, but not around hate or revenge or frustration, but around what he calls the good news of the kingdom. Hope emerges in a valley, a low point. What valley are you in today? I'm struck by one detail in today's gospel reading that could easily be missed. Jesus calls James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John as they are mending nets. The nets are torn. There they sit, disempowered by their tired and torn reality, trying to knit them back together when Jesus sees them. He sees them, not in their glorious, productive, hard-working action, but at a worn-out, tired, and discouraging moment. He sees them and then invites them to follow him. I wonder what torn nets are right there in your lap today. Where are you in your story? At a high point or a low point? As our presiding bishop has recently said, sacred ground is defined as any place where we are hearing the story of another. For it's the unrefined and unedited story that reveals the struggle, those places where we are tired or torn in some way. That is where our own poetry arises. That is where we realized that our story is the net that draws others in, and it is their story that draws us in because it resonates with the depths of the human struggle. It is the tears and the tears, the loose ends of our nets that can be tied to the loose ends of other stories. This is how the beloved community finds its purpose. In network. Has not this unprecedented time we are living in brought us closer? Has not the lockdowns in some way unlocked our hearts and our minds? Has not the inability to gathered our senses to remember what really matters? Has not the turmoil of these times reminded us that God's creative power emerges in chaos? As our young poet laureate reminded us this week, that even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. God meets us in the valleys And hope finds its beginning in a valley. But we are not left there if we are willing to meet openly there, because that meeting in the valley will invite us to follow something seemingly young and new out of the valley. I associate wisdom with something old, but I associate hope with something young. That is why having a young person proclaim hope can be so powerful. I think it was Satchel Paige, the Hall of Fame baseball pitcher, is known for his question, "How old would you be if you did not know how old you are?" It reminds me of that great peace activist and clergyman William Sloane Coffin, who liked to say that the purpose of life is to die young, as late as possible. There is something young that can remain in us and must remain in us. Hope just might be 22 years old, or 5 years old, or just being born in the manger of our hearts. Hope stirs that child within, which Jesus said was the key to entering the kingdom of this good news he preached. How do we welcome this childlike hope in our life today? By offering God the valley we are in and being willing to think about our life in a new way. It may mean remembering those you worry about and envisioning them victorious. It may mean seeing your weakness as a doorway to power. It will mean allowing your valley to be inspired by the mountaintop of your dreams. Hope can lead our hearts and minds out of the valley of discouragement, replacing worn out and tired places with a map to something new. In the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 8, it reads, "Finally, sisters and brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Herein lies the repentance Jesus talks about. Turn away from those dark narratives you secretly tell yourself every day and replace it with a new one, a young one. Let hope in. Let that which is young be renewed within you. Let hope permeate your prayer, and it will permeate your mind as well. On this day when we gather for our annual meeting to shape a new year, electing new leaders, reflecting on what has been, and hoping for what will be, may our tired and torn nets open our hearts to God and each other. May the young poet in each of us find ways to tie our nets together. May we create a network of love and connection so that we might be reeled in towards hope and bring others with us. It's just a fact, just as the older generations shine when it comes to wisdom, so too our younger members have the power to stir up hope in a special way. So I would like to end this reflection with a reading from Amanda Gorman, her poem written when she was 18. And I thought it would be more powerful to have one of our younger leaders, which we will shortly elect to the vestry, to read it. I invite Kirby Marion to recite a section of Amanda Gorman's In This Place.
Tyrants fear the poet. Now that we know it, we can't blow it. We owe it to show it, not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope. We must bestow it like a wick in the poet so it can grow lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of an America depleted but not defeated, a history written that need not be repeated, a nation composed but not yet completed. There's a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth to breathe hope into a palimpsest of time. A poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now, in the yellow song of dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric we are just beginning to tell.